Today I thought we would start with a simple painting. As you can see, I've got it's an 8x10 watercolor board. I'll go into what that is in a future video, but it takes the place of regular watercolor paper. It's a little easier to work with. You don't have to worry about rippling and whatnot when you add a lot of water, which you sometimes have to do. I thought I would start with a nice simple painting. See how it turns out. This one, I'm thinking a little path in the woods. So instead of listening to me talk, let's go ahead and start. First, I'm going to start by reactivating the watercolor pigment. And we're going to start off with a very light color, because we need to figure out, I'm just going to put in where we want the different elements to be. And with that, oh, actually, just going to wet down this board a little bit. A nice fine mist squirt bottle is great. I've recently discovered that. We want to have more than one, let me just make sure okay. More than one water source. We have the dirty water, which is clean at the moment, fresh water, and drinking water. Don't want to get them mixed up. So we spritzed the paper. I'm just going to even out that water, just using that for get the reflection in there. This kind of helps it helps to have the surface a little moist, not overly moist. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's not a great deal of water on there. And I'm just spreading that out. Just want to get that even. Okay. We'll let that sit for a moment. Think about what it's done. Add some more. Also helpful to have a little squirt bottle, little squeezy bottle. Let's see. First thing I'm going to do, first thing I'm going to do is switch to a slightly smaller brush. I used an old rag. This is an old t-shirt, and I also have paper towels when I need to use that. I like to keep the amount of waste down, keep it to a minimum. So I'm putting that into the clean water now, even though I'm going to be going into the same color. It's just a nice idea to be in the habit of doing that. So take a little look here. Okay, it's still a little wet, but that's okay for our purposes at the moment. So I'm thinking just a little path right about there. And it's a really light color. It's going to blend in with everything else we're doing. So we don't have to worry too much about, oh, am I getting it in the right spot or not? Not really an issue. There is no right or wrong. Yeah. So now let that sit for a second. And while that's sitting there, I'm just going to start to make out an idea of sky. I think a nice blue sky. And you'll notice there's little bits and little flotsam and jetsam. I try to keep that to a minimum, but it's not really a big deal. So I don't know if you can see that one or not, but I just clean out the brush. And you can leave them. It doesn't necessarily have to be taken out right away. Slightly darker blue. There we go. We're just letting it settle in, get used to its surroundings. There we go. Just a nice, happy, cloudy day. A little bit of clouds floating by. There we go. And we're just touching it and kind of giving it a suggestion of where to go. That's something you need to get used to with watercolor. Even though you can control it, it does have a mind of its own. It's a very fluid medium to work with, which I think is why most people are a little apprehensive about working in it. I've been there, I understand. So that's doing well. I keep checking to see what the moisture's like. Actually, I don't know where this is going, so I'm thinking about, we got some clouds in the sky, but I'm thinking that maybe this is like the first part of the day, and we've got, just adding a little water there. We've still got some fog, little ground fog. And let's go with that one for now. Okay. Yeah. Still got some ground fog, kind of creeping around in the bushes. That sounds very, that sounded wrong, but yeah, it's creeping around in the bushes. It's pervert fog. So just some trees in the distance. You want to give some thought to where the trees might be, what kind of trees. Just put in the suggestion of where you think they're going to be. Let them wander around. It's rather fascinating that, the way water and pigment interact. You start to learn it. It veins out, with some. Some colors, some brands have a bit more leg to them than others. Yeah. And then also it's a question of just how much water is, how far is it going to go? I can kind of see that it's kind of dry up there, so I'm just adding a little so we don't cut off the top of that tree. Okay, while that's sitting in there, we can work back into here. This is closer, a little more vibrant, I'm thinking. So, yeah, let's go with kind of a brighter green. Okay, put in a little bit of highlight here and there. Just spritz that. Yeah. So just put that in. And I'm going to move that color around. I want it to wander a bit, so yeah, there we go. So there's going to be a happy little bush right here. We'll work that in. If something else I find I do a lot is I have a lot of different brushes going, different sizes. It saves going back and forth. You want to have a couple brushes. So you can just fiddle around a bit. There we go. And I tend to over fiddle. See, was that? Yeah, there we go. I tend to over fiddle, which is something I keep working at. Now, I'm breaking a rule here. I'm working in the foreground. But remember, this is the first steps of the painting. I'm just trying to get a feel for it. Because I'm putting in a few foreground pieces now, I have the ability, I know what's going to be there when I start working forward, and I can adjust accordingly. So, yeah. Let's do that one. Yeah, just move that in. Okay, I'm just shifting the water around. I do a lot of this looking off to the side. Let's get a little bit more. There we go. I kind of have a feel for maybe this is going down a slope. Adds a little more visual interest close in. There we go. And I have a bunch of color pre-mixed, and there we go. Just to, I'm working on another painting as well. This is a quick little sketch because it's been a while with everything else going on. I haven't painted. So just trying to get back into it with this one before I work on another one. This is a little vignette, if you will. So that's probably had enough time. Oh, but still a little bit. Okay. I'm going to work in some overhanging trees. Clean up brushes. Let's get back to 0. If you notice, I haven't really defined very much in the way of shape yet. I'm going to close in that path a bit. But just to get something down, sometimes that's really the key. Yeah. That's really the key sometimes. So you can start to make out the start of a... oh, what do I want to say? Yeah, you can start to make out the form of the painting, the overall structure. I'm going to add some overhanging trees, like I said. And before I do that, I think I'm going to work just a little bit up there. Just a smidge. There we go. Okay. Just want to brighten that up a bit. This is usually when I get into trouble, because I start to fiddle, but I want that just a little darker. Just up top, not too much, just a little bit. You know, they say you work from the background forward, and to an extent that's true, but that doesn't mean that you can't go back. You should be very cognizant, but you can go back and work in just a little bit. There we go. You know, rules are there in place for a reason, and it makes sense, but as artists, our job is to break the rules. So that's what we do. We're not really breaking the rules. Rules are not hard and fast in art. It's a good place to start, but definitely not hard or fast. There we go. Okay, now, yeah, okay. This is fun. This is what I love to do. it's important to find something you love. So there's frustration with this, but yeah, it's important to find something you love to do and you follow it. It's a good thing. Okay. Now, I want trees. I'm trying to decide. I like this area. I want to keep it a little open, but I also want to fill stuff in. We're going to go around the path, and I don't know what's going to be there, so let's put in a tree. And there we go. I'm just checking to make sure I'm okay. Now, I like to work from the base up when I do trees. Not everyone is the same. You gotta find what works for you, and the only way to do that is to try. So just put that in. Try stuff out. Don't be afraid. I think that was the biggest hurdle for me was losing my fear of making a mistake. You know, you're going to mess up. With painting, with life, you're going to make mistakes. We don't come with a predetermined path. So, yeah, neither does a painting. A few minutes ago, this was nothing but a whiteboard. And I had an idea for where it was going to go, and I'm following that idea. I don't know what the final result's going to look like. I have an idea. I have a thought. In fact, I'm looking at it right now, and I just realized that you know what? This painting is very important, because I see something in this painting that I had no idea was in there. Ready for this? This is great. This is awesome. This is a perfect first painting for me to do a video of, because, as I was alluding to, life is all about choices. Paintings are all about choices. What to paint, whether or not to paint, you have to make decisions. And I think that this is one of the reasons I love painting so much, because you have the opportunity to decide where to go in life. You have an opportunity in paintings to decide what to paint, how to paint it, and then, once you've made that decision, other choices show up. It's a fork in the road. I had no idea that that was going to be there, but there it is. So now you get to make a choice. And you know what? I was going to keep that area open, and I still am to a point. But I think I want another tree. So I'm just cleaning those off. I'm going to go back into that. And we're going to have a tree right there. One of the misconceptions of watercolor is that you can't change what you put down. Now, I am painting over an area I already painted over, and honestly, I didn't think that I was going to have a tree there. In fact, I was thinking this was going to be over more, but it's not going to be. It doesn't want to. This is becoming a different painting. And that's cool. That's neat, I think. Clean those off. Clear water. What I should really do is put a lid over it, but I like to paint dangerously. So, oh gosh, I love this. This is going to be nice. I'm just sitting here thinking for a moment, not just basking in the glory of the painting, but I'm thinking about where things are going to be. So, now, something that one of my first watercolor artist, instructor, Mr. Sagita, one of the things that he always said was to work in odd numbers in nature. Now, obviously, in nature, you're going to have even, but for some reason, it just looks right when we have odd-numbered things. Now, I'm still painting pretty loosely, with pretty thin color. So it doesn't matter, I'm painting over different elements. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like at the end, but obviously this tree is in front of that tree, this tree is in front of that tree, this tree, and so forth. Right now, remember, this is two-dimensional. Later we'll add the third when we get into light and dark and whatnot. These are basically base colors. So I was holding off on the cloud area right here. Yeah, until I knew it was going to be dry enough that I didn't want stuff to move away from where I wanted it too much. I didn't want the color to spread, is what I'm trying to say. Oh, this is awesome. Okay. Now, that's kind of a funky looking path at the moment. I'm thinking I'm going to bring up, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring up another color, another shape. There we go. Just defining the area that I'm going to work in. Yeah, okay. Not very much. There we go. Just going to bring that in. And because I've added that water, it's going to spread. Just going to get some interesting little forms in there. I don't know exactly what species this shrub is. I'm thinking kind of a viney shrub, perhaps, or yeah. Hold on a second here. Sometimes it's hard to do two things at once. There we go. But yeah, more of a blue-green. It kind of sets it back. It's a little cooler than this brighter color that we've got up forward. You want to make sure that you don't paint everything the same color. That gets really boring, and it's so far removed from what nature is like. Yeah, so you just want to be cognizant of that. You've got to be able to define the shapes. I've got this idea that something's kind of crawling along the ground here, and I'm going to use that to define path a bit more. The other thing, you know, I started with color, with paint rather than sketching it out. That's another way to do things. There's nothing wrong with that. At some point I will be covering painting over a drawing, and using pencil to define the shapes and form of things, the texture, which is really fun. I haven't done it very much because I really prefer this style of painting, but what I'm getting at is there are no lines. You know, one of the other rules is, you know, there are no straight lines in nature. There's no pencil drawings in nature. So when you go to define a path, you don't want to add gutters to the side. And I'm not defining a highway. I'm just defining a path in nature. And nature is going to continually grow to fill in that path. And all the critters are going to wander along the path and define those paths in nature. And so there are no hard edges is what I'm getting at. So, yeah. Okay. Now, I want that to be a little more mysterious back there. I think I'm going to go with those three main trees. There's going to be some less distinct shrubs in the background, but I want something right in that area. There we go. And I'll be better about telling you what colors I'm using. But for the purposes of this, it really doesn't matter. I don't expect you to paint along and copy what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. But you can kind of see how I'm doing it. So, you know, one of the things about watercolor, about painting in general, or anything really, is you want to be confident in your motions. You don't want to be cocky. But you want to be confident. So let's see. Yeah, we'll just define that right there. I was going to go further, but I think that form is good. And I think what I'll end up doing is, oh, yeah, there we go. Actually, I'm going to bring that around because I want that path to drop off a bit. So yeah, it's going to come down like that. Okay. You know, I want both paths to kind of lead off in different directions, but no real clear indication of what's there, because this has kind of become an analogy for me for choices we make in life, which I think is kind of cool. So now I am going to make this a little bit of a garden path. I've still got some width there that I don't really want. I think, actually, hold on a second. Yeah, okay. You know, I've got the color right here anyways. So let's do. Let's do a little path. Let's just follow that garden path. Put some flowers in. You know, this is watercolor has a bit of an impressionistic feel to it. You know, it's obviously representational. What I mean by that is you can understand what you're looking at. We're in the woods. We've got flowers of some sort, perhaps, maybe some purple leaves. I'm not really sure, right? I'm going to make them flowers, but they could be leaves at this point. Maybe when you do your painting, you say, "Oh, I really want," you know. In fact, one of these paintings it's going to be leaves in a path. I just love that. it's a pretty thing. So much of life. Oh, gosh. We spend so much time, I'm going to say behind desks, even though I'm at a desk, but you know, we spend so much time looking inward when there's so much going on around us. It's kind of sad. It's important. There's other things in life that are important to do. Obviously, I can't do this without you good people doing other things. I couldn't do what I'm doing here without working at a desk for many years. And I don't regret that. But boy, it's so good to get out and look at the world and remember why we work so hard for stuff. Now, I'm going to use slightly darker color. I'm trying to decide. Yeah, it's going to move up the scale a little bit, actually quite a bit. Actually, what I'm going to do is go over here. There we go. I want to define this area right here. So just taking clear water. And you know, it takes, you notice I tap the brush a lot when I go in for more water, when I'm filling the brush. I tap it because I don't want to have too much water. You put too much water on and you've got interesting effects going on. Yeah, just bring that up a bit. I'm just going to do a little peak. Just a little peak. Right there. Okay, and actually I'm going to go in and just do a little definition here. So you gotta be willing to let things be. Allow the path to define itself. You know, I'm just kind of moving in. Yeah, allow things to define themselves is a good way to put it. You go crazy if you wanted to get every little thing, which I have done. But for something like this, it just doesn't make sense to be that specific. You know, it's a pretty path. Things are happening. This is the kind of painting where it, tells you what it wants to do. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. And don't forget to ring the little bell icon below to receive notices when I upload a new video every week. You can also follow me on social media by following the links in the description below. Thank you. I'm going to call that one good. See, it really didn't take that long.